of Thunderdome. If you know the bull with Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87th best daily podcast. A show about everything, nothing at all, coming at your ass 5 days a week. Sitting shotgun with me is going to be John Tuvey, he of the Fantasy Football Pants Party fame on 1500 ESPN. Also, SportsHub Technologies. We'll ask him all about that because it sounds like Initech or Initrode, like from Office Space, except with sports in it, so it's way cooler. Yeah, and it's kind of funny. The video I did yesterday about Adrian possibly joining the Saints and just like bringing it on, that got some reaction both ways. It's kind of funny because this is obviously just a pathetic attempt of Adrian to try and get back at the Vikings. It's like, well, the Saints are playing them Monday Night Football Week 1. I'm going to show up and show them what I got, even though he's going to go 4 carries for 6 yards because Mark Ingram's going to get the bulk of the carries. Yeah, because he's a better running back. Who knew? And who knew that the Saints, an attacking vertical passing game down the field, shotgun-based offense is going to cater to Adrian's strengths. Good luck with all that. But before we get to John, something you won't need much luck with is Josh Pelto because he is great. You don't need the luck when you got Josh Pelto, Remax preferred. I know him, love him, trust him. And, hey, when Andy buys the Carlson Manor 2.0, we're definitely using Josh Pelto. I recommend him to a bunch of my friends. We're the late-stage millennials. We're like... I guess we're the tip of the spear. We're like the first millennials. And just told a bunch of my friends to use Josh, recommend them from my heart. Whether you're buying or selling in the Twin Cities market, he'll get you the best price either way. He plays both sides, just like everyone in this whole Adrian Peterson video debate. JoshPelto.com or hit him up on the phone, 763-213-4617. He actually answers phone calls, unlike some realtors I know. 763-213-4617. JoshPelto.com, Remax preferred. All right, let's get to John Tuvey. And coming back into the Blue Door Pub, Thunderdome. Get your ass down here, University on Como. I'm sitting here with John Tuvey. Follow him on Twitter at JTuvey, Director of Content at SportsHub Technologies. John, good to see you again.
It's good to be back.
SportsHub Technologies. I mentioned in the intro that sounds like one of the fake companies from Office Space.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of a overarching company, a collection of companies. Rob Fithian is the owner, one of the guys that started Fanball with Charch, and he has built. He built Fanball, sold it. He built what is now Sport Radar and sold that. So he's had some great success in the sports industry, and now he's put together SportsHub Technologies. We've bought some companies. We bought Charch's company, LeagueSafe. We also own the National Fantasy Football Championship.
Oh, cool.
CDM, company out in Connecticut that does some white label games for NASCAR and NFL. And what we're really building towards is this fall. I can't reveal everything, but
that's a tease.
For NFL 2017. When you think of Rob Fithian and you think of Charch, you think of something, and that something might be coming back in a big way with NFL 2017. So we're very excited about that. Hopefully we'll be able to tell more probably right about the time training camp opens and really launch big with the start of the NFL season.
Yeah, that's the really cool thing of nowadays. People can make a living and a damn good living and start companies and offer jobs off of fake sports.
I was doing a little math in my head, and this will be coming up my 19th football season where I actually get paid to write about fake football and and make a living off it. So I have no complaints about the industry. It's treated me very well.
How long has that been the full-time gig?
19 years.
Oh, 19 years.
19 years of started off at Fanball, did that for about 8 years.
Yeah, because I'm familiar with like the Matthew Berry stories. Like, I started at Roto World getting $25 an article, then eventually got big. But wow, you've almost done for 2 decades.
I fell right into it. I was doing. I was a commissioner in my league, and I was writing my own little newsletter. And then I just kind of I was out of work on a full-time basis. The company I worked for moved to California, didn't bring me with.
Yep.
And I
wait. That's how long ago it was
leave me on the curb.
when companies were actually moving to California.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's crazy.
I had a track record where every couple of years the company I worked for up and moved somewhere and didn't bring me with, or got purchased, and so I was kind of bad luck there. But
what was the profession in the former life?
I started out at Hamlin University Law School, doing marketing promotions for them, then went to what was then West Publishing, is now Thomson Reuters, I believe.
Yep.
Was in their college textbook division, so a lot of promotional writing and promotions and that sort of stuff. And
But how'd you get out of that industry? That's a great industry of charging kids $200 a book.
Yeah, I would have been in that industry forever, except that Thomson bought West, and they had other imprints, so they kind of transitioned my job elsewhere, and again didn't take me with. So caught on with a PR firm for a couple years, and then they moved, and again didn't take me with. And I cold called Charch. It was the start of the football season, and he still talks about the letter that I wrote to him, because I compared my skills to. So I have Randy Moss type writing skills.
Yeah.
I'm like John Randall in that I'm a free agent offering my services, and whatever it was, he took the bait and said, come in and do stats for us on Sundays. So I started out doing stats on Sundays, caught them just as they were blowing up big. They were transitioning from the print product to online, and really got in at the right time with them.
Now, doing stats, does that sound exactly what it was? That exactly what it sounds like?
Yes.
Just literally watching the game and marking down stats?
Even less exciting than that. You were getting the feed and the 9-point type and lining it all up and making sure it looked pretty and double checking everything and making sure. Yeah, it was tedious work. And so my first gig with Charch, my primary job, was all of the design, layout, and production of the print product, the weekly newsletter, and then the magazines. And they let me do a little bit of reading, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And the guys that were also the full-time writers said, this guy's not too bad. Let's give him a little bit more. And then we actually got somebody that had a design background instead of just me kind of thumbing my way through it. And here I am now.
Man, that's so insane. Working up the fantasy newsletter. Like, I can't even imagine.
It was fun. And it was a baseball newsletter that kind of got me the job. And I don't even play much. I guess I knew that baseball was behind me. When I looked at the All-Star roster, I didn't recognize half the names on the All-Star team. I thought, you know what? I'm probably going to sell my half ownership in a team, because I'm really I'm contributing nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel now about baseball, except the start of every season, opening day, the Twins are actually playing good, getting outside the game. You get a little bit of the nostalgia, because baseball was my sport growing up and played it all through high school and whatnot. Just sort of drifted towards football. I think it might have been because the Twins were bad. But I don't know. Baseball, like, the biggest draw of it is nostalgia, I feel.
And it's also a very stat-based game. But it's a lot of playing catch with your dad or that sort of thing. So like you said, the nostalgia. I think the reason why not as many people play it fantasy-wise anymore is it's such a grind, which is why daily is not such a bad thing when it comes to baseball. You don't have to spend 26 weeks, watching your fantasy team. With football, you've got a week to prepare. You've got one game. All the games are mostly on one day, with the exception of Thursday and Monday, and then you do it all again. But baseball and basketball and hockey, you got to pay attention all the time, and I think that's one of the big reasons why NFL fantasy is leaps and bounds more successful than the other fantasy sports.
Yeah, I tried DFS, baseball DFS for a little bit, but then E60 segment came out. It was like former Wall Street guys running numbers on like artificial turf and grass. Like, I'm not going to beat those guys.
Yeah, and you're not going to beat the guys that are playing 150 entries. You got to pick and choose your games. And even the DFS I play, I don't play the big money stuff. I play the small. I play the 50-50. If I finish in the top half, I'm doing well. Play a little bit of baseball, but it's kind of like you got to account for the weather. If you lose 2 or 3 guys to a rain out, your lineup's toast. So,
what's the current? I haven't been following, but what's the current status of like DraftKings, FanDuel in terms of legality?
The merger, as far as I know, still hasn't officially been signed off on. I know that they agreed to it. I think it was last fall.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we've kind of been paying attention to how are they going to position themselves, what they're going to do. But they're taking some steps to not eliminate the sharks, because the sharks are the people that pay their bills. I mean, the guys that are entering 150 contests at $350 a pop,
Or the DraftKings employees winning over at FanDuel.
Yes, that does kind of cast a little shade on the industry as well. So it would be interesting to see, and the smaller players. We just had Fantasy Aces go belly up. They were using the money that you had. If you had an account there, you had, say, $1,000. Well, that $1,000 wasn't sitting there like it's supposed to. They were using that to pay bills and pay salaries and stuff.
It's just like full tilt poker.
Yeah, it didn't go over so well. But Fantasy Draft bought out their shares, and I believe paid back a lot of what people had lost in Fantasy Aces. So that was at least a positive for the industry.
Yeah, it's basically a Ponzi scheme.
It is kind of frightening. There's a lot of people playing it that don't realize that they're going up against this guy that's got 150 entries going, or like you said, is breaking down the stats in crazy ways. And there's the whole cottage industry next to that with the fantasy labs and the Swish Analytics and all the people that are selling you lineups and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's some shade, but there's a lot of ways it can be a positive too.
Now, speaking of, the positives of fantasy football, especially, I scaled it back because back in the day, like in the college era, I was in 9, 11 leagues, and it was a little too much. I was able to back it down to 2. I joined one as a favor. 2 of them were paid leagues, except fantasy football is so funny. The one I cared about the most and got the most enjoyment out of was the free one with a bunch of friends from college. That's the main pride shit-talking league, and I feel like that's it's a pretty common sentiment among most people playing fantasy.
That is a lot of the appeal of fantasy football. I've got 2 leagues that have been around. I think they'll be coming up on year 27 and year 26. And one of them is all college friends that I don't see much anymore. But one day a year, we all get together, and most of them don't. I do this for a living, so they basically what they look at is, hey, we're giving Tuvey $50, and he's going to win at the end of the year, and but we get to show up and eat pizza and drink beer, and and aside on that, we've got a guy in our league who is he's worked his way up the ladder. He's now like vice president of special markets for Anheuser-Busch. Always have a beer distributor in your league, because we haven't had to pay for beer for our draft for, I can't remember the last time.
That's a pretty good setup.
Yes, and he's cycled through. He was at Red Hook for a while. He was at Line & Kugel for a while, and he's been with Anheuser-Busch, and he'll bring in all kinds of different stuff for us to try. So
now you just need to invite Michael Pizzaluce into your group.
Yes, we need some food guys in the league. Exactly.
Now, how old were you when you first started playing fantasy, and what sport?
My first fantasy team was my senior year in college. It was a football team.
Oh, late bloomer.
I was a late bloomer, but I'm an old guy, so that was 1988. So it was we were sitting around in preseason. I was up at St. John's for football. We didn't have anything to do, and some guy said, "Hey, let's all draft teams." I don't remember much about my team, which means I didn't win the league, but I know I had Thurman Thomas. I think Thurman Thomas was a rookie that year. So.
Hopefully it's PPR.
Started a long history of me drafting a lot of rookie running backs and depending on rookie running backs.
Now, you were at St. John's?
Playing. I was on the team.
Oh, there you go.
Now it's up to like 180 guys. At that point, I think we were only about 130, 140. I never got past second string. I did get to travel the last couple years. I look at it this way. We were 8-0 in games that I played in.
Hey.
So I think that's a pretty solid record.
Yeah.
If only, maybe I'm the biggest mistake Glardy ever made. If only he would have played me more. Yeah. Or maybe he just knew the spots that he could afford to play me.
It's so cool. Everyone has a great John Glardy story. What's yours?
I have plenty of Jim Glardy stories because Jim and I were the same class, and we were neighbors senior year. I think my favorite John Glardy story, my senior year, we were playing against Augsburg. We were handling Augsburg. At that point, Augsburg was one of the lower-end franchises in the MIAC. And we were beating them pretty good. It was on their field. I got into the game, so we were up by a few. And they had a guy on their team, I believe his name is Dave Stevens, and he's gone on to some great things. He tried out with the Saints. I believe he's a producer at ESPN now.
Oh, cool.
He was born without legs. From the knees on down, he had no legs. And he was on their football team. He was on their wrestling team as well. But he was out there on their football team.
Yep.
So we get down to the goal line, and the play call, I was playing right tackle. The play calls for me to block down on the defensive tackle. I look over, and I see this guy with no legs. And the first thought that goes through my head, and it maybe isn't politically correct, but my thought was, if I can't block this guy, I'm just going to walk back to St. John's, hand in my uniform. I don't even deserve to ride on the team bus. Yeah. So I make the block. We score the touchdown. I survived, so I get out of it.
You got up and talked some ass, like, take that, Lieutenant Dan. This movie hasn't come out yet, but I don't care.
I did not talk any smack to him. But then we get to film on Monday, and we're up by enough that Ghilardi says, all right, just let it roll, and anybody sees a great play, call it out. So we're going along. We get down to this play, and we score a touchdown, and my good friend Jim Ghilardi says, hey, Tuvey's got a great block on this play, and I'm sinking down lower and lower into my chair. So John rewinds it. He runs it back, and he runs the play again. And he doesn't notice that the guy that I'm blocking has no legs. Everybody else in the auditorium notices that the guy that I'm blocking, so he runs it back again. And he runs, and by this time, Mike Grant, who's up there as an assistant, is I thought he was going to burst a vein. He's laughing so hard. The laughter, and he finally notices that the guy I'm blocking has no legs. Shit, all right, move on. That was my claim to fame. I blocked the guy with no legs.
Hey.
But successful.
It's better than letting him make the tackle. And,
exactly.
Listeners, if you don't know who John Ghilardi is, St. John's football legend, did it the right way. Google him. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many different stories. Seriously, all of the stories that you hear are true. I mean, we did have the nice day drill. We would lay out on the grass at St. John's. We'd look up at the sky and say, this is a nice day. I mean, that was stretching for us. We'd stop practice because a deer was running across, and John was watching. He's like, hey, guys, look, it's a deer. And he would reference the deer. He'd say, you ever see a deer stretch? No. You ever see a deer pull a hamstring? No. So that's why we didn't stretch.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Come on, think about it.
There's a lot of stuff that, it's lucky that he won.
yes. All of, whatever, 498 wins or whatever he ended up with certainly makes up for a lot of things.
Now, coming into this draft, you're talking about rookies. Who stands out to you? Like, who's going to make the impact like a Zeke Elliott made last year?
I don't know that there is one, but it's gonna depend on where the guy lands. I could see Fournette doing that if he lands in the right spot.
Carolina.
I'm thinking exactly Carolina. I've seen mocks where he goes to San Francisco. I don't know that he's a fit. I don't think he goes number 2. I've seen him going to the Jets. I don't like that fit. He's definitely a fit. Dalvin Cook, I think, has all the skills to be a 3-down back in the NFL and a good pass-catching back. I've seen mocks with him going to Tampa Bay, and with Doug Martin out for the first month of the season, he could definitely fall into something. The Bolts would end up with the back. I think Christian McCaffrey will be a good pro in the right spot. I think he's going to be more than the scat back type. I think in today's NFL, you need a guy that can catch passes. You need a guy that's as versatile as him. And again, I've seen him going to Carolina in a draft. I'm like, I just don't know that Carolina's offense is right for him, but. Indy, God bless them, from a fantasy perspective, they always seem to ignore defense and draft guys that put points on the board. And if they were to end up with Christian McCaffrey, you can find lots of ways for that to work.
I have 2 favorite spots for McCaffrey. Well, not favorite, but really good spots. 11 to the Saints, or even though they need a hell of a lot of defense, except I think they got 5 picks in the top 100. And then 14, the Eagles with the Vikings pick. I've
seen that Eagles one as well, and I'll be doing a mock on a St. Cloud radio station that I've appeared on for a long time, and I have the Eagles pick, and I'm already slotting McCaffrey. If he hasn't gone off the board by then, I think he goes. Now, you think he goes to the Saints maybe as a Thunder and Lightning with Adrian Peterson?
You mean Mark Ingram, and then Adrian as RB3? Yeah. Let's crack into that. So. Adrian had been flirting with the Saints sort of nonchalantly. And then, of course, when the schedule drops, sees week 1, U.S. Bank Stadium, Monday Night Football, Saints at Vikings. And then it just clicked. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, yeah, I'll play for peanuts.
Yeah. What would the Vikings have had to pay him? Was it 17?
18.
18. Yep. Yeah, and now it's 3.
Yeah. It's a spot where I think he was the only human on earth, not even his agent, who thought that he was actually going to get paid the $18 million in 2017. And then when he hit free agency and he's like, well, yeah, I'll settle for 10. Well, sure, why not? And then he met with the Patriots and the Saints and the Seahawks. And then he was starting to understand what his actual market value is. And now he has a chance to, hey, week 1, it's week 1, so I probably won't be injured. I'll be fresh. and I can get a little revenge, even though I'll probably only get 4 carries, and then we'll go.
I thought that the landing place for him, and maybe he wasn't willing to, like you said, he wasn't willing to admit it, but the Patriots to replace LeGarrette Blount. It just seemed, Corey Dillon went there and had a couple of years. Randy Moss went back there and rejuvenated his career. Until they, now they say Gillislee is going to be the guy that replaces the LeGarrette Blount carries, but that could have easily been an Adrian Peterson role, and he would have been a fantasy factor again, because look what Blount did in that role.
Yeah, I feel like Belichick, even though they put him through a full workout, was a bit of a favor. Yeah, Belichick loves these guys, like you see Chad Johnson. God, who else has been cycled through that? Corey Dillon. He had respect for Derek Mason, except until they got an argument on the sideline. And I feel like it was kind of a favor. It's like, we got interested. Also, huge leverage play on LeGarrette Blount, where he was pissed because he only made $1 million last year, and then he scored 18 touchdowns. And he was like, come on. And they had a contract offer out to him. It's like, oh, well, if you don't want to sign, we'll just sign Adrian Peterson. Yeah,
there definitely was a lot more than just the football in play there.
Yeah. I not so closetly love Belichick. I've read all the books about him, and like besides the dirt and him pushing the envelope a little bit, he's just does not give a what anyone thinks. Like, if there was no football and he was in the business world, he would be the greatest CEO of all time. He would.
I don't disagree. Have you read his dad's scouting book?
I have not.
Yeah, I that was highly recommended when I first started getting into watching the draft, and I don't want to portray myself as a draft Nick by any stretch. Yep. There's guys that watch tons of film. I don't do that anymore, but that was just it was a real interesting read. His dad wrote the book on scouting. It's kind of the scouting Bible that people base their scouting reports off of.
Yeah, Steve Belichick, longtime Navy scout. I'm going to have to check that out. What's your take on Myles Garrett?
I don't know that I fully agree with what Warren Sapp said, where you don't see the splash plays, you don't see the games he took over. I think there's been enough. I cycled through 12 mocks to kind of get ready for this week, and every single one of them had Garrett at number 1. And it's not a real heavy talent laden draft, but I think he's the guy that if you were to say who in this draft can change your program, I think it's Garrett, and I think the Browns are going to make the smart move and end up taking him.
Yeah, he has all the measurables, and I don't necessarily agree with Sapp saying that he disappears in some games. He makes 4 plays and then takes the rest of the game off. But I understand where he's coming from.
I agree.
And the fact that we can even give credence to Warren Sapp's hot take here does raise some eyebrows. But like you said, it's not a top-end heavy draft in terms of talent. And like we were talking before the show, I think this, since the Vikings don't have a first-round pick, gave it up to Philly for the Sam Bradford trade, I think this, if you're going to have a draft not to have a first-round pick and have multiple mid-round picks, this would be the draft.
Right, and especially areas that I think the Vikings will be looking in. There's no real, you usually see linemen going, 5 or 6 different linemen going in the first round. There might be 3 that go in this first round, but there'll be a bunch in the second round that I think that would definitely step in for the Vikings. And part of that is it's a deep class, and part of that is the Vikings have a desperate need. I think it's a good safeties class. I think there's a lot of talented safeties that the Vikings don't need. I agree. That's one name that I really need the Vikings to take 2 offensive linemen in those first 3 picks. But if Budda Baker's on the board, I don't know how you can pass that up. And then, then you can go down the list a little bit for a lineman. But if he's there in round 2, I'm on board with that.
Let's walk through the one mock draft that you did do. Now, I see some trades in there.
In this one, no. This was
no. Yeah, sorry, I read it wrong.
This was straight up fan-sided that allows you to draft for the team of choice. And like you said, with the Vikings not having a first-round pick, it's been really tough to get motivated to do a full-on mock draft because you're maybe going to get 8 right, maybe 10 right. You're going to take heat from 5 or 6 different teams about the guy, fans of the teams of the guy that you give them. And it's a lot of work goes into it. So there's really no motivation to do a mock draft. So I've been entertaining myself by doing these fan-sided ones. And I did this one, it was probably about a week and a half ago. And I thought I'm going to stop because I don't think it gets any better than this. First off,
I don't think you can top your first pick.
Forrest Lamp falls to the Vikings in the second round. It's not going to happen, but man, if it does, he's sprinting to the.
Well, you never know. Maybe he'll have a diluted sample like Jabril Peppers.
Can we start circulating Forrest Lamp gas mask bong? Something like that?
Gas mask bomb while having skinny knees. Although, all right, I have a conspiracy theory. I feel like the skinny knees thing was actually leaked by Spielman to get Tay to fall, and then karma just came knocking like last year, like a bee. They're like, anyways.
So Forrest Lamp, and then in the third round, Pat Elflein, the center from Ohio State, who I'd be happy with him in the second round actually, but he's still there in the third. And could play guard if the Vikings need him to as well, but obviously they have a need at center as well. And then they got a safety in Justin Evans from Texas A&M with the third round pick. And then in the fourth round, two more guys that probably would be gone on day two: Carlos Henderson, the receiver from Louisiana Tech, and Larry Ogunjobi, the defensive tackle from Charlotte. And obviously
that's a big need now.
Exactly, it's a huge need. And then they fill the running back need with James Conner from Pitt.
I love James Conner.
How can you not? I mean, it's a great story just waiting to happen. And the further removed he is from the cancer treatment, you got to think the more the speed comes back, the more the power comes back. The guy obviously has heart. He obviously can play.
And man, 240, 250? He's big.
Yeah, he's
a big kid.
He could be the Asiata plus. And then they go hometown in the sixth round with Jalen Myrick.
Yeah.
Gives them some speed, special teams guy. And then Matt Milano, the linebacker from Boston College, still on the board in round 7, and that's another position they need help at.
Now, a lot of people have talked about this, that Spielman always takes a slow sort of plodding linebacker in the 7th. And I had a couple of people tell me it's like because that reminds Spielman of him when he played.
It could be.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, it's paid dividends. You got Audie Cole. You picked up Kentrell Brothers. And it's a nice way to keep cycling through at a position of need. And also you can get some guys that got some heart. Some Rudies at the bottom of the draft.
Yeah, like the year they took the two Penn State kids. One of them had just come off the knee surgery.
Maudie and Hodges.
Yep, and one of them's still playing in the league, right? The other one's out
Gerald Hodges. I think he's still a free agent.
Okay.
He's still chilling out there.
Yep.
A lot of people were like, yeah, we should re-sign him. I was like, no, there's a reason we traded him for dirt. Not a great locker room guy.
Well, and that's something, bring up the name Joe Mixon as we talk about fantasy guys.
Boy. Yeah.
Everybody, every blurb I read, they start by saying, we're not going to talk about the off-field stuff. That's you make your own decision on that. Teams will make their own decision. On the field, the guy's a first-round talent.
Yep.
I know Zimmer is supposedly in love with him. The one thing that scares me without having done any credible research into who he is as a person other than what I've seen, but at the bowl game, when the fans were chanting and he was kind of doing the bring it on, and then he mimed punching his teammates in the end zone.
No, his teammates mimed punching him.
Yeah, that I thought, that shows me maybe you haven't learned. That maybe this hasn't sunk in, and now I'm worried about another incident that's going to cost you games.
And also, he had an incident with a parking lot attendant where he got pretty angry, ripped up the ticket. And we've talked about this to death. It doesn't seem like the guy is like a true scumbag, like a Caleb Brantley potentially could be, but just has like huge anger issues that could rear ugly head at any time. Because when he gets in the league and gets on the field, I'm going to give you 9 guesses of what defensive players are going to be talking S in his ear about, and the first 8 don't count.
Yes,
and he seems like a guy who that could get to him. He could snap, and then that's going to cost you on the field.
Cost you 15 yards, and you have to be. He's going to be off the board. The nice thing is he's going to be off the board before the Vikings have to pick.
Yeah,
somebody's going to take
the PR scrub campaign has come through where I think he's going to be a first-round pick. I think he. I've been saying this for months. I think he goes to the Chiefs at 27 because, Kansas City, very close to Oklahoma, a lot of Sooner fan base carryover, and they were very quick to forgive him. Andy Reid's taking chances on Michael Vick in Philly, Tyreek Hill last year.
Yeah, that one really flew under the radar, the Tyreek Hill.
And also small media market, so they're kind of be out of the way. I think he goes there, and the whole PR scrub of him settling with the girl coming out saying that she forgives Mixon. Of course, she got a payday.
Yeah,
so
how many zeros in forgive?
Yeah, and it's all set up. I'm not going to lie. I'm very happy. I do not want he's a perfectly fine player. I don't believe the hype that a lot of people are putting out that he would be RB1 if not for the off the field stuff. I don't think he's that great of a runner. He's a hell of a receiver. Like comparisons to Matt Forte are pretty apt out there. But yeah, we just got over the Adrian thing. I don't want another player. I understand they don't have to all be choir boys, but I don't want a major one where you just feel dirty cheering for him every day.
Yep, I agree. Let him go to Green Bay. Yeah. Hop in the hot tub with Mark Chmura.
That would be so great. That would be so wonderful. And yeah, I've talked about this at length, so I'm going to keep it really short. The thing that annoys me most about the Mixon and the Adrian incident is people are like, well, I believe in second chances, and he seems remorseful. It's like, would you say that for a 7th-round pick or an undrafted free agent? If you would, then it's altruistic, and I respect that, but you don't, and you're full of shit. You just want him because he would help your football team, and just say that. Please just say that. Don't try to lie to yourself.
No, I totally agree. The more talent you have, the more chances you get. Yeah. It's proven time and time again in every professional sport.
And people try to do the, second chances, forgiveness, blah, 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 so that they have the moral high ground so they can feel better about themselves. But no, just say he helps your team win football games. I can respect that.
I can't argue with that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, because I do see the logic of you don't care what they do the other how many hours are in the week except for the 3.5 that they're playing for your team. I get that, but there just seems to be something more like civic pride, like the person's representing your city, your state, where it just seems a little skeevy to me.
Yeah, and it was tricky with Adrian. I mean, my kid's got Adrian posters on his wall. I've got an Adrian poster in my office. I've got an Adrian jersey, and to kind of match that up with what you saw, and again, if there's video or there's pictures of it. If there wasn't, it'd be a little bit easier. But you see those pictures and you're like, really, this and this, and how can I, how is the hero worship? And it's tricky.
Oh my God, could you imagine if there's video of Adrian just whipping the hell out of his kid with a tree?
Yeesh.
Yeah. And I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, we're in the age of cell phones. Yeah, the daughter maybe is like, oh, yeah, we're going to make sure he remembers this. Or we'll show this at his 21st birthday party.
Will he be riding in on a camel? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
No camel this year for, 32?
Yeah, no, he decided to cut back because he's taking a big pay cut this year. That must have been it.
He just rode in on a little wooden horse. And
Well, I will say, when Adrian signs with the Saints and when he comes here for Monday Night Football Week 1, if he busts off an 80-yard touchdown run, I will switch sports. I will go United. I'm the Dark Clouds. Go Loons or whatever they are.
I don't know that he's got the burst. That's the other thing that you're hearing around the league is that you saw last year that the burst that made him special just isn't there. And now, we didn't see anything special from him last year. Granted, he missed a lot of the season with injury, but age takes its toll on everyone and even the great ones. And
the thing about it is, like, him slowing down and then becoming the sort of short yardage power goal line back, he never really was that. I mean, obviously he's chiseled like an Adonis, but he's only 220 pounds, and he's not a 250-pound LeGarrette Blount. He's not a James Conner. He's not a Samaj Perine even in this draft. And it's like, just because you're slow doesn't make you a power back.
And ball security issues. I mean, you don't want to be handing off at the goal line to a guy that his fumbling record.
I am. With the Vikings contingent going down to the Oklahoma Pro Day, working with the running backs, setting Zimmer and Spielman and Polamalu, the new running backs coach, I was just like, please let them be in Perine and not Mixon. Just please.
Or have him make the trip over to Utah. This Jamal Williams guy is really intriguing me as he'd be a bigger back, but I think he could bring a little bit more to the table as well. I don't know if he's quite a third down guy, but or a 3-down back. But, reading his backstory was, it probably has tainted my view a little bit and what he went through. He blew out his knee his freshman year, and then had to sit out his junior year because he's at BYU, and he spent the night with the girl in her room.
Oh, the honor code,
honor code. And he owned up to it. He said, I signed the honor code. Other people saying, you're just doing what every other college kid does. And said, but I signed the honor code. And then he came back to BYU, set their single season rushing record as in his final year. So there's and his I believe it's his uncle that is training him, and his uncle met Walter Payton and is Walter Payton idol, and so he's got his own. He runs one of those combine training type of things, where Jamal Williams works out, and they have a hill based on the hill that Walter Payton used to run up, because he said he got to run the hill once with Walter Payton, and he said he ran the hill and he beat him, got to the top and beat him. He's all excited and got to the top and got back down, and Walter said, okay, that's one, we're going 9 more. And he said, what? He said, I did not win the other 9.
That's a good, and Walter was doing the whole thing in ponies.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever happened to them?
Or kangaroos. Wasn't he a kangaroos guy? Or is he
was
pony?
it Bruce?
I don't remember.
He
one of those off-brand
either one
shoes.
It was a defunct shoe, yeah.
Yep.
I feel like the 3-down back, it's sort of a unicorn. Like, there's only so many David Johnsons and Le'Veon Bells and Zekes in the world. And I do think just more specializing, having the scat back, having the power goal line short yardage guy, and having the RB3 who can do a little bit of everything. That's the future.
I don't disagree.
And they all have to pass block.
Exactly. Nothing prevents a rookie from getting on the field their first year more than the inability to pass block and getting your quarterback killed. So you're right, and you see it really heavily in fantasy. We remember in the days where you could go 20 out of 32 deep with backs that were going to get 20-plus carries a game. Now you got maybe 5 backs that are going to touch the ball more than 20 times because you've got a 15 guy and a 10 guy, or an 18 guy and a 12 guy, or something like that. So
that's why I was sort of confounded by when people, like, the in vogue strategy was the 0 running back, where you ignore the running in your fantasy draft. I'm sorry, I'm speaking nerd here. You focus on, you go heavy on wide receiver, you pick up a quarterback or even a tight end earlier than you would, and then you just pick through the pile what's left at running back. I'm like, I don't know, but the scarce resource, if you have a chance to grab one of the top tier running backs, you should probably do it.
Yeah, it's a strategy that I don't think you implement if you're in the first 4 or 5 picks, because you have your shot at the guys you mentioned, the Zekes, the Le'Veon Bells, the David Johnsons. But once you get into those middle rounds, can you get a back that does the same, or take an Antonio Brown in that point, or a Julio Jones, and you call it 0 running back. Back in when I started at Fanball, and Church was do the opposite. And even before I started, maybe one of the reasons I got the job at Fanball with Church was, one of the drafts I did before that was I didn't take a running back until the 7th round, which and that was when, if you did some research, you were ahead of the game, and that was the year Stephen Davis burst out for the Washington Redskins. I took him in the 7th round.
Nice.
And I had my receivers were guys like Herman Moore. I think I had Wesley Walls as a tight end. I think I took 2 quarterbacks. I think I took, that might have been the year that I took Cunningham, and then I took Jeff George as the handcuff because, and it ended up paying off because Cunningham got hurt.
Oh, 99?
That sounds right, 99. Yep.
Wow, the quarterback handcuff.
They're rarely tried. Kids, don't try this at home. I'm a professional.
It makes sense in a high-powered offense.
In that offense, it absolutely did.
Yeah. Wow, that's some nuggets there. Is there any quarterback that's even worth taking in the first round? Like, say you're on the back end of the first round, all the premium wide receivers and running back are gone. You're in a 10 or 12 team league.
I want to say there are, but it's statistically proven time and time again that you can do something better with that, because so many quarterbacks score points. If there is one, it's probably Aaron Rodgers, especially if they ignore the running back position again, because that just means he's going to be throwing for 303 or 4 every week. Other than his home road splits have tended to be iffy, and I believe week 16 aren't they in Minnesota? So if you want to be looking way ahead at your team, if you're in the championship game and you got Aaron Rodgers on the road against what has historically been a pretty good defense, you might want to.
I think we're on the road in week 16.
I think it's at Green Bay. I thought we were on the road for the first one and at home.
If only there's a machine where I could. Oh,
no, you're right. At Packers, so he is at home. So hey, go draft Aaron Rodgers. He's your guy.
Because I remember it's like, they're setting this up for us to skid off the runway again. On Christmas.
Awesome. We'll take a bus out there or something.
Yeah,
they'd love that.
So when did you guys start the Fantasy Football Pants Party podcast?
Pants Party started, I believe Bo and Maj started it the year before last. And then I became a free agent last year and joined up with them. And I worked with Bo and Maj at Fanball.
Yep.
And we actually had a podcast back before it was cool to have podcasts. We were on the cutting edge, and we had the Fantasy Football Pants Party. And then we dropped our pants last year and came back with the Fantasy Football Party podcast. But still plenty of Anchorman drops and lots of, we got the knee sounder and all kinds of irreverence in addition to the information.
So no more Zubas?
Oh, definitely Zubas. That was maybe the highlight of my fantasy football career was, when they said, okay, now you can go out and get some sponsors for our podcast. I said, well, I'm going to contact the president of Zubas. Just out of the blue, wrote me back right away, said, hey, that sounds great. We'd love to. So, but they didn't want to pay us in cash. They wanted to pay us in Zubas, which I'm totally on board with. So my family's all got Zubas. Maj he gave out Zubas for Christmas. And yes, that was, we dropped our pants and we added Zubas.
What's the weekly format?
For the podcast?
Yeah.
We, in the past, and I'm assuming we're going to do the same thing this year, we recorded it Thursday morning. So we had as much information as possible without, there's still plenty of injury information to be decided there, but...
it was early Thursday morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, we would get it up before, we'd record it 7-ish, 7:30-ish, so it would be probably available by 9:30, 10, something like that. And, we'd cover... We'd set DFS lineups because we had a DFS game that people could enter and compete against us. We'd break down injuries. We'd break down any news. We'd talk about any sleeper type players that we liked. But a lot of that came through in the lineups that we would set. And this is a guy we'd spend a lot of money on. This is a guy that is more of a bargain type player for us. And we have a segment where we talk to a guy from DFL Dynasty that would break down a little bit more Dynasty stuff, which isn't as applicable to DFS, but for season-long leagues and Empire leagues, Dynasty leagues, that sort of thing. There's a lot more than just who's going to play this week. You're looking long-term. So hopefully we'll do a lot of that this year as well and build on that. And I think we'll probably try and tone back the news and information segment because some of that gets a little bit outdated and a lot of it is just stuff you can find and give you a little bit more analysis and more jokes. I think we'd like to work in more jokes too.
How can you possibly work in more jokes? No, I've listened before. It's a good time on there. You guys have fun.
Yeah, it's I've always thought and this from doing the radio show with Charch and then any of the podcasts that I've done. It works best when it just sounds like you're having a conversation with somebody. And with Bo and with Maj, we know each other well enough that it's really just three guys sitting around talking football.
Yeah.
And we also happen to have reams of stats. Bo's got all kinds of stuff from Sports Radar that he's able to give us and some really cool, they're tapped into the next gen stats. And we had stuff like, this guy was the fastest, fastest running back last week was this player at this many miles an hour, broken down by carries inside the 5 or what they did with those carries and that sort of thing. So, we've got the stats, but it's also just a lot of conversation as well.
All right, so we just got some deliciousness delivered up here at the Blue Door Pub, so we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back with more of John Tuvey. Andy Carlson here, Purple for the Win podcast, letting you know that we'll be here all off-season long talking the Vikings angle on everything. Combine, pro days, free agency, the draft, OTAs, training camp in 2017. Baby. Get the show on 1500 ESPN, Podcast One, and the Podcast One app. And coming back into the Blue Door Pub, baby. Get your butt down here. And their Blue Sea of the moment is the Ballpark Blue Sea. It's exactly what it sounds like. Stuffed with mozzarella, onion, cheddar, jalapeno pickled relish, celery salt. It's just like a Chicago-style hot dog in burger form. It's good stuff. John, what did you have?
I had I believe it was the horse kick. And I'm going to try not to belch into the microphone for the rest of the show because that was phenomenal.
Oh, good. And you can belch. We got plenty of wind guards. I'll just change them out.
Awesome.
And, get down here. All 3 Twin Cities locations, St. Paul, University on Como, and Longfellow, which is in St. Paul off 55. You don't know where it is. Yeah, do that up. So we're coming back in with John Tuvey, talking some fantasy football, talking some draft. And we talked a little bit off the break about a major key for the Vikings this year is don't draft a German. And you touched a nerve because I was so pissed off isn't being a term. I don't get pissed off, but just more annoyed, irate, irritated that I understand it's only a 6th-round pick and most 6th-round picks don't pan out, but you could actually pick someone with NFL caliber talent instead of a YouTube sensation who just really, 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 really wants to play for the Vikings.
That felt like a pick that a team like the Patriots make, and the Patriots wouldn't, but a team who's won so much and doesn't need, that guy's going to be an oddity and he's going to come into camp and then they're going to send him on his way with a couple T-shirts. Yep. It also bothered me because he went right in front of the punter I thought they should have taken. I believe ended up going to San Diego.
And a lot of teams will do this with the 90-man roster. They'll take the discus thrower who never played down a football in his life, except he's a 6'5", 280 Adonis who can run a 4.6. Sure, do that, except don't waste a 6th-round draft pick on him, man. Come on.
Yeah, pick him up as a UDFA, bring him in, just give him a cup of coffee, bring in the rugby players. Once in a while, maybe you'll find somebody that pans out, and I guess I hope that that Behringer pans out, but it just seems too far in the future that for that 6th-round pick, you could have brought somebody into camp that maybe would have had a little bit of a difference somewhere. Why not another lineman at this point?
If you had to bet a crisp $100 bill, does Mobo spend any time at all on the 53-man roster this season?
Ooh, this season. It would take 3 injuries to wide receivers.
Yeah. I don't know. They're pretty shallow wide receiver now, and if they don't address it early...
They are, but it's we talked about all the other different positions. I think receivers the same way. There's a couple guys that'll go in the 1st round, maybe 3, but it's a fairly long tail of receivers. I think they can find 2 or 3 bodies that they can bring in camp that will move quickly ahead of Moritz on the depth chart.
Tell you my favorite guy in the later rounds for a wide receiver, Ryan Switzer.
Yeah,
North Carolina.
I like what he brings to the table, and you can just start drawing the comparisons to Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. Why not?
Except good. Well, Edelman's good. Welker used to be good, and he would bring a dynamic, a slot receiver, kick returner, a punt returner as well. That he's just got some juice to him, and I always use as a comparison. He's what we wanted Jarius Wright to be.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I thought Wright would end up being more than he is. I'm trying to dig through my notes to see. I want to see if they went out of their way to not compare Switzer to the obvious options.
Tavon Austin, I've seen a couple times in Switzer comparisons.
Although, that'll work. That'll work. Yeah. I think one of my favorite fan ball moments was the write-up we did for Patrick Jeffers, and again, totally not politically correct. Yep. But we talked about Patrick Jeffers having the toughness of Ed McCaffrey, the speed of Don Beebe, and 4 other white wide receivers that had played in the NFL, drawing the obvious comparisons because you have to compare same color guy to same color guy.
Yeah, like Adam Thielen, Eric Decker in the making.
There you go.
Yeah, and going down the Jarius Wright hole, I've been trying to cut him ever since he signed that contract, and it's like. He's like, every time someone pushes back against us, they're like, oh, he's such a great slot receiver. It's like, no, he's not a great slot receiver. He doesn't have slot receiver skills. He only plays the slot because he's
Yeah, it's if you're a receiver that isn't the prototypical 6'2" or 6'5", and with the large catch radius, they automatically move you into the slot. But you're finding more and more big receivers playing out of the slot and doing. Larry Fitzgerald has had some great success out of the slot.
Marcus Colson was the OG big slot.
There you go.
And that's in the back of my mind. I think playing the big slot is where Treadwell could make some money.
I was just going to ask if you had to position the Viking receivers. And I was thinking about that as I was driving in too, because I thought that might be a real good topic to discuss. Was okay, you've got Diggs, you've got Thielen. where does Treadwell fit? Could you run him out of the slot? And that does make a lot of sense.
Well, when they go 3 wide, my whole dream is that Treadwell pans out to be a decent outside the number possession receiver. Thielen's going to do his thing, and then you just put slots and Diggs in the slot full time. That would be trying to spend 2 ways against Stephon Diggs. I mean, get out of here.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And like you said, we didn't get to see anything from Treadwell. I don't know if the coaches just have bailed on him. I would say would have made. Well, they did make a mild push for Alshon Jeffrey, which kind of scares me a little bit that maybe they aren't buying into Treadwell. We'll see what they do. If they're taking a receiver on day 2, I think that says we've seen it and it's not there. We're going to have to go a different direction.
Yeah. Well, as we've seen, the Vikings aren't too quick to admit their draft mistakes. I mean, they rolled T.J. Clemmings out there again. They brought Willie Beavers back. We wouldn't have even seen Rashad Hill if T.J. Clemmings didn't get hurt in Week 17.
Look, I don't know many people that spend more time breaking down, well, not necessarily breaking down, but analyzing offensive linemen in the draft. And I had Beaver on the radar as a 7th-round guy. And there were a lot of guys that made contributions last year that thought were still on the board with that 4th-round pick. And I was hoping I didn't know more than the Vikings draft him at that time.
Well, it was ad nauseum. He was the PFF college's worst-ranked tackle and just a non-entity. And the Vikings take him in the 4th round because Sperano says he could put a dent in people. And it's just like, what kind of circus is this? We just traded away our 3rd-round pick, and you come back with this?
And it might speak to if they were still the Adrian Peterson smash mouth kind of team, maybe he pans out as somebody who, like you said, puts a dent in people. But now you're asking him to do something he's obviously not equipped to do. Maybe that's I look back at it, I look at Treadwell the same way. Did Norv Turner have a different plan for Treadwell than what the Vikings need to do with him now, and can he fit what they need him to do?
Well, Treadwell got all of his catches under Pat Shurmur.
all one?
It was really funny because Treadwell, 1 catch, 15 yards. It's a punchline, da-da-da. I looked up Vince Papali's career stats. 1 catch, 15 yards. Come on, baby. Well, primarily played special teams, but
So Treadwell's touchdown's going to come after he clocks a Giants punt returner and picks up the fumble.
Make a Disney movie about him.
Then points up to the stands, to what was her name?
Elizabeth Banks.
Elizabeth Banks, exactly.
Mobo was supposed to be invincible, or Rudy, or amalgamation of the two.
He's just Schadenfreude.
Yeah, and I 100% think that was a PR pick. Like, that was the NFL saying, like, hey, if you guys want to throw us a bone, it's a good story. We'll get some good marketing out of it. But then at training camp, the PR team absolutely shut him down. Like, he never talked to any media. So it's like, oh, so what was the point?
Yeah, Mayock was all over that. It did have it smacked of a setup. And like I said, I was as frustrated as anyone because there was a punter that could have helped the team that was still on the board. There's actually a player.
Or another lineman or a corner or or a quarterback.
Yeah, take a shot at a quarterback there.
Speaking of quarterback, how do you think the Team Teddy, Team Sam situation is going to shake out in the coming years?
Well, it really all depends on how much they know about Teddy's knee and when they know it. If they see enough this year that they don't pick up Bradford's option, I think that's the best case scenario for the Vikings is that they say, Sam, thanks. If you want to find a starting job elsewhere, if you're able to, great. If not, we'd love to bring you back at a reduced salary to back up Teddy because you kind of know what we're doing here, but Teddy's going to be our guy going forward. That's the best case scenario, and being a lifelong Minnesota Vikings fan, that's not how it's going to play out.
Now, honestly, I could see a spot where we end up with neither of them and win the draft next year. Because if I'm Bradford's camp, and I understand that the team is still in love with Teddy. You saw how they reacted to him, like when he was at practice, when he was at games and whatnot. This is still Teddy's team. And if I'm going to be here, I'm going to need some insurance. Like, I'm going to need a big, old, fatty contract, even though I've made plenty of money in my career. Or you can roll with Teddy. That's fine. I'll hit the open market, and I'll make 3X what Mike Glennon made. Because, Sam Bradford's proven he's a top 15 quarterback, and top 15 quarterbacks get paid. And
he can fit into an offense where he dinks and dunks, and there's enough of them out there. And plenty of coaches that are willing to do that. So, yeah, it can do that to a ripe old age.
Yeah, and beginning of May, we'll get the decision on if they're going to pick up Teddy's fifth-year option. Then that will really complicate things because, A, it will tell me that they believe that he'll be healthy enough where he can pass a physical next year, so they won't have to injury guarantee it. So that's nice. And then that sort of throws the gauntlet down the Bradford. Is like, oh, well, Teddy's going to be here in 2018. I don't know if you are going to be.
Well, money, like you said, money is a motivation. So why not play for getting paid somewhere down the road if it's not going to be here?
Yeah, and I kind of feel bad for Bradford because it does seem like it's a 70-30 split amongst the fans as far as being on Team Teddy, and the 30% are just like, oh, I'm just going to root for whoever's the starting quarterback of the Vikings. And, it's like it's being the other guy. Oh, the analogy I always throw out is it's like the movie Castaway. You seen the movie?
Yes.
All right, so Teddy is Tom Hanks, and then we thought he's dead. And then the Vikings fans are Helen Hunt. So we move on with our lives. And we marry Chris Noth because he's safe, and Sam Bradford is Chris Noth. But then Teddy comes back. He's alive. And now what do we do?
Well, she gets in the car with him. Does she drive? Well, she ends up going back.
No, she wants to go with him, and then he's like, no, you have to stay. And then she stays with Chris Noth.
Is that what Teddy's going to do for us? Does
possible.
Teddy have a volleyball that he draws a face on? These are the questions that I'd check his locker next time you're out there. Oh,
also random. I completely forgot during that movie that his wife's name is Rita Wilson. So the entire time he's yelling Wilson, is like, oh, all right. I could easily see a spot where maybe the Vikings don't pick up Teddy's fifth-year option because they have concern on the knees. They're not able to re-sign Bradford. They don't want to franchise them, and then we lose both of them.
So then so you're saying throwing a 7th-round pick on Mitch Leitner and develop him?
To a fullback, sure, yeah. and then it's all in for Darnold.
All right, yeah. Wasn't he a true freshman this year?
He's a sophomore.
Sophomore.
Or retro freshman. One of the two. Either way, he's going to be eligible next year.
Okay. Well, that's what matters.
Every single quarterback draft class, except maybe 98 with Manning Leaf and 2012 with Luck and RG3, it's always, wait till you see next year's quarterback class. Every single year. But this year I actually believe it because beyond Mahomes' YOLO style and I like Watson's floor, there's not really too much that excites me about this quarterback class.
Yeah, it's kind of a draft class of Bortles and Alex Smiths and guys that, they can hold serve and I think we're 2 years removed now from a great defense winning with a meh quarterback. Yeah. So maybe that's not the blueprint anymore. So
the Broncos carrying weekend with Bernie, Peyton Manning.
yes, carrying the carcass of Peyton Manning.
That's still amazing to me.
It is, yeah. But I think he threatened. You kind of that's Peyton Manning back there, and so maybe you just played that little bit
the
extra soft, and there was something that he was able to do just enough.
He was second in the league in interceptions and only played 9 games.
That's an impressive. That maybe is the most impressive stat.
He was the leader towards the end until Bortles was like, "No, I can't let a legend
Hold
go down
my beer.
like this." Oh man! So Bortles is obviously not going to be the guy. Say the Vikings do go with Teddy. Sam. Where's the spot for Teddy?
Cleveland. He'd be 2 spots down from Trubisky on the jersey.
No. we can't do that today.
No, we wouldn't do that today.
I'm thinking Miami or Jacksonville.
Well, yeah, if Jacksonville doesn't draft a quarterback, Miami will probably be ready to move on from Ryan Tannehill. They probably are now. Yeah. They just haven't admitted it to themselves yet. Yeah.
Or hell, maybe the Texans strike out on the quarterbacks this year and then have another year of quarterback purgatory and then welcome in Teddy that they're trying to draft in 2014 anyways.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think the Texans that's where Mahomes lands.
Oh, that would be so fun.
That would be interesting.
I'm a big Pat Mahomes fan. Not so much that I would want him on my team, but just from the entertainment factor of watching him on another team.
Yeah, he's pure gunslinger.
Yeah.
There's some Favre to him, and he may not end up being everything that Favre was. Not many quarterbacks are, but he's going to go down swinging.
Oxy's hard to get nowadays.
It won't be boring with Pat Mahomes at quarterback.
Yeah. What was the comp? Young Matt Stafford. I thought that was a pretty apt comp.
I could see that. I remember the game he had last year. Did it go overtime? The big shootout game? I went back and calculated, and it was one of my favorite tweets of all time. that he had thrown more than his dad did in his last, and it was like 21 major league outings. He'd thrown more times.
Yeah, I remember his dad on the Twins, and my first story about him was he was constantly chirping at TK, Tom Kelly, that is like, TK, let me pinch run. I'm really fast. Let me do it. And then he put him in. TK finally put him in, and then he got thrown out trying to steal.
I was going to say, I thought he got picked off. Yeah, that would be even worse.
Yeah, that's good. Let's bring it home. So the Vikings draft needs, position-wise.
Offensive line. I mean, interior offensive line. I think 2 of the first 3 picks need to be interior offensive linemen. And then
even after Reef and Remmers.
Well, put them at the tackles. And I wouldn't mind a developmental tackle late. The Willie Beavers type, but in round 7 and preferably with more talent, more upside. There are some guys, Deion Dawkins and Antonio Garcia that might be there in second or third round that they could take, that they could start out at guard and eventually move to tackle if they need to. And then, depending on what the board gives them, I think defensive tackle's a need. I think safety's a need. I wouldn't mind a linebacker. We talked about if they did have a first-round pick, would they take Reuben Foster and kick Kendricks out to an outside spot? I don't know that there are many middle linebackers after him that will be on the board, but there might be an outside guy that they could draft. It's a deep cornerback class, but I think I'd rather they go safety, and I do think running back is a need. Whether they go with one late on day 2 or early in day 3. Speaks to what they think they're going to get from Murray, how much they believe in McKinnon, and then, if Wayne Gallman's there. I like the kid from Toledo, Kareem Hunt. I like Jamal Williams. We've talked about him. I mean, there are some guys that should be there rounds 3, 4, and 5, and I wouldn't mind. And then finish up with more linemen.
And then a slow plodding linebacker in the 7th round.
There you go.
If there's one name that you can guarantee, like cosmically, that the Vikings end up with, could be at 48, could be anywhere in the draft, one name that the Vikings have to come away with, you get to pick. What you got?
I'd put Elflin at that. I think whether they end up taking him in the 2nd round or he falls to them in the 3rd round, if they already took Lamp or Garcia or Feeney if he falls. But he's a guy I think they can plug in at center. They could put him at guard if they feel they've got different coverage at center, and they can plug in and leave, and he'll be there for the length of his rookie contract and hopefully a lot longer.
There we go. John, what's I was asked this, so what is the 5-year plan? Like, what's the long-term plan besides getting all the kids through college?
Oh, man. The 5-year plan is hopefully to launch this big new thing that we're going to launch from SportsHub Technologies.
And listeners, he didn't even tell me during the break.
It wasn't for lack of trying. I'm playing it pretty close to the vest. But all I got to tell you is, with names like Fithian and Charchian attached to it, it's going to be big come fantasy football season 2017, so stay tuned. So hopefully that goes big, and then my retirement dream would be to buy a tow truck and go around and tow people that park stupid. I don't know if that's within the 5-year. That might be the 10-year plan. But
now, working for a tow truck place or as a vigilante tow truck?
As a vigilante, absolutely. You don't need a medallion or anything for that, do you? I just you see somebody that's parked across 2 spots at Walmart, gone.
That would actually be a way better movie than Batman vs. Superman. I would watch the hell out of that.
I got to get some screenwriters on that. I think there's something to it.
He's John Tuvey. Follow him on Twitter at JTuvey. He's got the Fletch avatar, which I admitted I'd never seen Fletch, and then he yelled at me.
I once did a radio bit with on I believe it was Yahoo Sports Radio, and the guy had seen my avatar, and he started out with a Fletch quote. So I responded to a Fletch quote, and we basically did a 15-minute interview talking football, just laced with dialogue from Fletch. It was maybe I put that right up there as with blocking the guy with no legs as one of the highlights of my football career.
I feel like I'm right at the edge of age at 30, going to be 32 of the Fletch zone. Yeah, I just missed it.
It's possible, but it'll come back around. My kids. One of my more recent tweets was parenting can be an exasperating situation, and then your daughter sings all the words to Bohemian Rhapsody, and you realize you're doing something right.
Nice. He's SportsHub Technology and also the Fantasy Football Party podcast on 1500 ESPN. John, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Good stuff with John. A lot of interesting things going on, and it's cool how technology has come so far, and people are so interested in the minute details of sports. Is that you can make a living doing something that you love. I mean, 40 years ago, was that really possible? It wasn't, and I love how this whole not even cottage industry. This is an industry of sports information technology has really just hit in the face. Like there's people who can make a very good living. Look at Paul Charchian in this market. Look at Matthew Berry at ESPN off of fantasy football, and it's amazing. I love it. It's inspiring, and the guys are just crushing it. And John is crushing as well, baby. Oh, also speaking of crushing. If you want to get to some crushing possibly this weekend, go to theenclosed.com. It's the world's finest panties delivered right to your door every single month. Go through, pick your preferences, pick 1, 3, 6, 12-month package. And if you use the code PFTW, as in purple FTW, PFTW at checkout, we'll save $15 off any order you put down. Hit that up. Theenclosed.com, the world's finest panties, baby. Also, the world's finest podcast is not mine, but you should download mine anyways. iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Check us out on YouTube. Throwing up new content on there as well. And if you enjoy Bull or Purple for the Win, spread the word. I mean, that's how we grow. We don't have a marketing budget, and the way that we've grown is just by doing the work and by people telling their friends, and that's what we're putting on you. Tell a friend, add to the Jerome Homie Army, baby, and hit me up on Twitter at Andy Carlson Show, and also on Instagram. We're trying to grow on there as well. Oh, same name, at Andy Carlson Show. Thanks, producer Allie Sorensen, for making me not sound so stupid today. But for John Tuvey, I'm Andy Carlson saying, and Young, sayonara, and bye-bye. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Bowl with Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87th best daily podcast. Download the show on iTunes. Everyone's middle name is Jerome.